Imagine waking up in the middle of the night, your 2 children are bleeding on the floor, and instead of the world seeing you as a victim, they decide you did it. Now, imagine one birthday party at a gravesite, some silly string, one camera angle, and suddenly half of America says, yep, she's guilty. But here's the problem. This case, nothing, and I mean nothing, is that simple.
What would have been Devon's 7th birthday at the cemetery. Family members invited a local television news crew to attend.
Happy birthday, dear Devon.
If you knew Devon and Damon, you would know that they're up in heaven, and they're up there having the biggest birthday party that we could ever imagine. And they wouldn't want us to be down here being sad, even though our hearts are breaking. I know that Devon and Damon would want us to be happy.
Hello, lovelies. How are we today? Real quick, I'm Summer. This is All Day Mystery. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you're new, welcome. I'm glad to have you. We like to do a little thing called true crime here. Maybe a little bit of mystery, maybe a lot of bit of mystery. So if you are interested, please sit down, have some coffee, have some tea, have a snack. Stay a while. Let's do this. Today, we're diving into one of those true crime cases that has had everybody arguing for nearly 3 decades. And honestly, this case has everything: a brutal murder, a suspicious crime scene, a mother on death row, questionable evidence, and investigators saying, yeah, no, we're not buying what you're selling. Because somehow, almost 30 years later, people still cannot agree on what actually happened. It was 1996. Darlie Routier and her husband, Darren, lived in a nice home in Rowlett. Nice neighborhood, big house. Money seemed good. 2 young boys running around, another baby upstairs. From the outside, pretty normal suburban family, which if you watch enough true crime, you know, usually that means absolutely nothing is normal. Because apparently peaceful suburban homes and horrifying crime scenes go together way too often. Unfortunately. On June 6, 1996, Darlie said she fell asleep downstairs on the couch. Her sons, 6-year-old Damon and 5-year-old Devon, were sleeping nearby. Her husband, Darren, upstairs sleeping with their infant son, Drake, and their dog, I might add, which was there with him. This makes me wonder, sir, you slept through what exactly? And that dog didn't make a peep? Because what happened next was chaos. So again, how would you sleep through this? According to Darlie, she suddenly woke up because she felt someone brush against her. She opened her eyes and saw a man walking away. Not standing there, not attacking, walking away. She says she chased him towards the garage, but then noticed both of her sons had been stabbed repeatedly. Yes, repeatedly. The intruder supposedly escaped and just vanished into the night because apparently this mystery man had Olympic sprinting skills. When the police got there, it was horrifying. Devon was dying, Damon was dying. There was blood everywhere. Darlie had cuts on her arms, bruising, and most concerning, a deep slash across her throat. And not a paper cut either. The wound came dangerously close to a major artery. So naturally, police first thought possible home invasion. Makes sense, right? Closed case. Except, nope, because investigators very quickly started side-eyeing the whole thing, and hard side-eyeing. Police found something strange, a bloody sock. Not inside the house, outside, about 75 yards away in the alley. The sock had blood from both boys on it. Now, prosecutors said, aha, she planted it. Because according to them, Darlie attacked the boys, ran outside, dropped the sock to fake an intruder, then ran back inside, all while severely injured, which honestly sounds like a very cardio-invasive murder plan. But let's look at this for a second. Obviously, the sock came from the house itself. It had both boys' blood on it. Investigators say that the sock was placed on the blood rather than it being blood spattered from doing the attack. And why would the attacker have this, why wouldn't they leave the sock with the weapon, before they left? Me thinking that it was used as a glove, maybe? I don't know. And you're still thinking about Darlie doing it, right? What about the cut on her neck? Wouldn't she leave a trail of blood doing all that with the sock? Oh, yeah. Yeah, she would. Most definitely. Unless she didn't do it until after the fact, hurting the boys, planting the sock, cutting the window, then hurting herself. Okay. Then investigators noticed the garage window screen had been cut, like I just said. Darlie said the intruder came through there. Police said, cute story, no. They believe the screen had been cut from the inside of the house, basically accusing her of staging the break-in. And to make things worse, no footprints, no fingerprints, no obvious signs anyone else had been there, which definitely did not help her case. Now, here's where people still argue. Prosecutors claim Darlie's injuries were self-inflicted, basically saying she hurt herself after attacking the boys, like we talked about. But defense experts point out something important. That slash on her neck, it was dangerously close to killing her, like very close. And the question became, would someone staging an attack really risk accidentally severing an artery? Maybe. Because that feels like committing to the bit a little too hard. And then there's the story of seeing two men at her door trying to break in. One had a sweatsuit on and the other a cowboy hat. She turns on the porch light and the two men run off. Then a half hour later, apparently these two men, sweatsuit man and cowboy hat man, are seen by her again at her bedroom window trying to break in. But of course, she turns on the light and these men run off again. Interesting. Did you hear about the weapon? Yeah. A bread knife was used that was in the kitchen, and the family kitchen. So let me get this straight. We're supposed to believe some mystery intruder broke into the house in the middle of the night with apparently zero plan whatsoever. Because instead of bringing, I don't know, a weapon, this person allegedly decides, nah, I'll just shop around when I get there. So now the stranger, who has never been in this house before, supposedly, quietly sneaks around through the home, somehow doesn't wake anybody up, makes his way straight to the kitchen, and just magically knows exactly where the knives are kept, which means this person either spent time casually searching through the drawers and counters in the dark while everyone's sleeping, or, and here's where people start raising eyebrows, they already knew their way around the house. Because think about it. If you're breaking into a random home planning to kill someone, why show up empty-handed? That's like robbing a bank and saying, oops, forgot the getaway car. And somehow after all of this, two children are attacked. Darlie says she's attacked too. And we're expected to believe this mystery ninja repeatedly pulled this off without anyone hearing someone rummaging through the kitchen first? Yeah. Investigators heard that story and basically said, respectfully, no. And then the video. Now, this is where everything changed. A few days after the murders, family members gathered at the boys' gravesite. There was a camera recording, and footage showed Darlie laughing, smiling, spraying silly string, acting, well, not how people thought a grieving mother should act. And America collectively went, oh, absolutely not. But here's the thing. The prosecution only showed that part of the footage, not the earlier footage, the part where the family was crying, praying, visibly grieving, basically the emotional parts where they were conveniently skipped over, which had many people saying, wait a minute, because context matters, it's kind of important, small details. In 1997, Darlie was put on trial, but only for the murder of Damon, not Devin. Interesting choice. The prosecution argued she killed her children because of financial stress. The defense argued investigators ignored signs of an actual intruder. After weeks in court, the jury found her guilty and sentenced her to death. So just like that, a suburban Texas mother became one of the most controversial women on death row. Why people think she may be innocent? Over the years, supporters have pointed out some weird things. Unidentified fingerprints found inside the house, possible DNA evidence that was never fully tested, questions about blood spatter analysis, claims investigators contaminated evidence, and criticism over how heavily the jury relied on that famous silly string footage. Basically, people started to asking, did police focus on Darlie too quickly? Did they decide she was guilty and stop looking elsewhere? Because unfortunately, that has happened before. Quite a lot, actually. As of today, Darlie Routier remains on death row in Texas. Appeals continue, DNA testing battles continues, and no one can fully agree on what actually happened inside that house. Did a mother kill her own children? Or did investigators completely miss a killer? All right. We've talked about the possibility that Darlie Routier was innocent, kind of. We've kind of went back and forth. We've talked about mystery intruders, random killers apparently training for Olympic level stealth competitions, and investigators maybe locking in on her way too fast. But now we need to talk about the other side, because a lot of people look at this case and say, nope, she absolutely did it. And honestly, there are reasons people believe that. Some of them are uncomfortable, so let's get into it. One of the biggest theories prosecutors pushed was simple: money. Because apparently behind that nice house, nice cars, and perfect suburban family image, things weren't looking so perfect financially. The Routiers reportedly had debt piling up, bills stacking, money problems growing, and prosecutors argued Darlie was overwhelmed. Now, here's where it gets dark. They suggested she may have believed life insurance money could help solve some of those financial problems, which immediately makes people go, okay, that escalated really quick. Because we're not talking about returning something to Target without a receipt. We're talking about murdering your own children. Huge difference. Very illegal. Extremely frowned upon. Horrible, I might add. And the housekeeper that they had, Darlie was trying to sell her jewelry to, and this jewelry wasn't stolen during or after the attacks. Awfully weird looking. Now, let's talk about Darlie's injuries. We've kind of already gone over this a little bit. She had bruises, cuts on her arms, and a slash across her neck, which sounds serious because it was serious. But prosecutors argued something important. They believed those wounds were self-inflicted, basically saying she injured herself afterward to look like a victim. And prosecution pretty much said, look, she hurt herself enough to look convincing, but not enough to die. Now, defense experts disagree heavily. That neck wound was dangerously close to hitting a major artery, meaning one tiny mistake and she could have bled out. So then people ask, would somebody risk accidentally killing themselves just to sell a fake story? Which honestly sounds like a terrible plan. 0 stars, would not recommend. Now, here's another theory people have brought up for years. At the time, Darlie had recently given birth to baby Drake. Some people wondered whether she was struggling mentally, possibly depression, possibly emotional instability, possible stress from motherhood and financial pressures. Now, there was never clear evidence proving this caused the murders, but some experts have looked back and asked whether mental health struggles may have played a role. And honestly, cases involving young children often become far more complicated than what investigators first assume. Because sometimes things happen behind closed doors and they're completely invisible to everybody else. So here's the uncomfortable truth. If Darlie did this, why? Financial pressures, emotional breakdown, a moment of rage, something nobody ever saw coming. Because despite her conviction, there has never been one explanation everyone agrees on. And that, honestly, that might be the creepiest part, not knowing. Because somewhere in all of this, either a guilty woman has spent decades saying she's innocent, or the wrong person was convicted. while the real killer disappeared. And nearly 30 years later, people are still arguing. So what do you think about this? Was Darlie Routier guilty, or did investigators get tunnel vision? Let me know below. There really is so much that goes on in this case. I would really hope that a mother wouldn't be able to do that to her children. But there is so much that goes on in this world that it wouldn't surprise me if the mental health is and like real financial issues. But I mean, how can you do that? 2 boys. I can't even imagine. I really can't. Like, you have to be missing something from your brain to do that. What do you guys think about this? Let me know. Let me know down below. I mean, do you think she did it? Do you think she's innocent? Like, what do you think? If you're still here, thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoy talking to you guys about this, about these cases. But as always, please watch your back. Please have a good week. And as always, don't talk to strangers.